So that call there, that's the territorial whistle song. That's their own call. This one's not. That's a grey shrike thrush. So again, mimicry, whipbird. So that's a real tricky call to do. That's actually an introduced blackbird, a European blackbird, and then the black cockatoo, and a red wattlebird. It's a tree creeper, and the wing beats of a small bird. And of course, everybody knows that one, that's a kookaburra. It's actually a boobook owl, and back to the whipbird. And now he's back onto his own whistle song. That's the lyrebird's own call. My name's Alex Maisey. I'm a research fellow at La Trobe University. I'm a wildlife ecologist with a real interest in ecosystems and how they work, particularly the superb lyrebird. Lyrebirds have been an interest of mine since I was really young, and I was very fortunate in living right next to Sherbrooke Forest here as a 10-year-old that I could come into this forest and see these birds. Once you get to know the lyrebird, they just become more and more interesting, and the more you know, the more you realise you don't know. So you just want to keep coming back and learning more. It is something that you just sort of pinch yourself sometimes and think, is this really what I'm able to do for work? So incredibly privileged, and I certainly feel that. The lyrebird's distribution is actually pretty broad. It ranges from about Fish Creek in southern Victoria all the way up to the Queensland border along the Great Dividing Range. And they really like those wetter forests where you get lots of tree ferns, lots of litter fall and lots of moisture in the environment. So here where we're standing in a wet forest, there's lots of beautiful habitat structure around us that protects the nests. This is optimal lyrebird habitat here. This is where you want to be. So lyrebirds are a long-lived songbird, a passerine or a perching bird. If they get to adulthood, they become really savvy, and they might take 7 years to mature, but once they get there, they might live up to 25 or 30 years. We don't really know the upper limit. Lyrebirds evolved mimicry probably as part of sexual selection, females choosing males that could mimic well. It's a really good kookaburra. So the idea is that these songbirds are mimicking all of these sounds to try and show that they're really clever, because it's hard cognitively, it's hard to mimic all of these sounds so accurately. And they have to practice a lot. So if you're a male, like this one, who's in a really good territory and he's able to dedicate so much of his time to mimicry and practicing that mimicry, and if you can get good at it, maybe you're actually a really good male to mate with because you've got good genes that allow you to do that. So lyrebirds grow a really long tail, and the tail is part of sexual selection, so it's judged by the females. And if you can survive with a really long, beautiful tail and not get eaten by foxes and not get attacked by other predators in the environment, then you've probably got good genes and a good bet to mate with if you're a female lyrebird judging your mates. Here we're looking at a lyrebird display mound. So this is constructed by the male lyrebird, and this is where he performs his song and dance. It's essentially his stage. So it's beautifully lit. The sun's coming in behind me. It's actually hitting the mound now, so there's a nice gap in the canopy, and it's surrounded by all these dense batwing ferns, and it's just like the curtains of a stage. So it's really visually a big impact when the bird actually comes onto this mound and gets ready to do his dance. It's all very harshly judged by the female. She'll circle the tail, look at the dance, look at his fancy footwork, and he's got to get the coordination between the song and the dance steps right to convince her that he's the one. And eventually, when she decides who's best, he'll mount the female and she molts these feathers, and that's how we can tell there's been a successful mating on this mound. Lyrebirds are actually really incredibly accomplished ecosystem engineers. They move more material per unit area than any other organism on the planet that's been recorded to date. So compared to bandicoots, which are doing a lot themselves at around 6 to 8 tonnes per hectare, lyrebirds are around 150 to 200 tonnes per hectare in these forests. It's an incredible disturbance process, unparalleled in the animal kingdom. So here we're looking at a foraging pit, and this foraging pit has been made by a lyrebird scratching through the litter and soil. And I can see on the ground here thousands of little seedlings that have all germinated because where the lyrebird has actually removed the top layer of litter and exposed the seed bank to the sun and to the moisture of the rain. And these have all germinated as a response to that lyrebird foraging here. So when lyrebirds forage, they dig through the litter and soil and they bury all of the litter from the topsoil and integrate it into the mineral earth. And this has really wide implications for the forest. It buries a whole heap of these fine fuels and decomposes them much quicker when they're buried under moist soil than if the lyrebirds weren't here. So that affects fire regimes. So the entire fire regime of the forest might change if you have lots of lyrebirds. But they also change the microhabitat for invertebrates that live in the soil. So some areas are foraged and opened up where there's exposed mineral earth like this. Other areas are mounded in like a little compost heap. So this is great for all of those little detritivores that live in the soil and break down the organic matter. And then there are other areas around that are left more intact. So it's all of these little micro habitats that different species take advantage of. So really important for nutrient cycling, fire regimes and invertebrate assemblages, which of course is what they eat. So it's a really beautiful, balanced system of disturbance in these forests. This is a now disused lyrebird nest from last season, and this has been constructed by the female bird all on her own, so no help from the male whatsoever. And she's gone and gathered over 1,000 sticks in this, so dug them all from the ground just to find the right lengths, taken them back here and placed them in this location that she's judged to be a good place to build her nest. And it's this beautiful domed nest that keeps the rain out, and on a tree like this, in the rain, the water can be running down the back of the tree, and you can look in the nest and it'll actually use the tree as the back wall, and the water runs straight down and the nest is perfectly dry with a little bed of grey feathers in the bottom. And then at the end of the process of building the nest, you'll get a few little green sprigs of usually eucalypt leaf, and she'll pop those in the lining of the roof, and that just is like the finishing touch. So pretty remarkable in the camouflage of the nest. And this one, as you can see, it's on the ground. So for a predator like the introduced red fox, it's very vulnerable. So they have to be really careful when they're coming to feed the chick that they take the chick's droppings away and either bury them in the surrounding soil or drop them in a creek, and that removes the scent and keeps that nest nice and safe from predators that use olfaction to find their prey. Well, I think When it comes to the protection of lyrebirds and their habitat, there are a lot of things we can do in our local area. Obviously, if you have pets like dogs or cats, keeping them out from natural areas like national parks is really important. But also on a broader level, thinking about how the actions that we take, the things that we consume and the way we live our lives impacts on the environment at a broader level is really important, because aspects of environmental change like climate change have really the potential to change fire frequencies in these forests. Now we're lucky we have lyrebirds that are trying to stabilise these ecosystems essentially through their foraging. They don't know it, but they're this stabilising disturbance process in a bizarre way. And climate change really threatens that delicate balance. So it's important as individuals that we think about how our impact can go on to affect the wider world beyond our own lives.